The Last Duel. What can you tell us about it?
So the story is that this guy, Jean de, I think it's Carouge, who's played by Matt Damon, and Jacques Legris, who's played by Adam Driver, are friends. And they are both squires. They go into battle together. This is during the 100 Years' War. And they both serve a lord who is played by Ben Affleck. In the battle, Carouge saves Legris' life. Legris later becomes godfather to Carouge's son. They're very close relationship. At some point, they start growing apart. Carouge continues to be a warrior. He's eventually knighted, whereas Legris starts serving the Lord more in an administrative function, and he starts getting favors from this Lord. And Carouge becomes jealous of those favors. In particular, there's a piece of land and an appointment that he felt he should have gotten that Legris ends up with. So there's a split between them. Carouge then marries a young woman named Marguerite, who is an heiress, and he thinks that her money will help him restore his fortune. At one point, they are at a function where Legris is there, and so he tries to mend fences a little bit. He says, he introduces the two of them, and he says to her, oh, kiss him to show that we have no hard feelings. It's sort of a kiss of peace. And that's what starts off the rest of the bad part of the story, because you see the events from each of the three characters' points of view. So when you see it from Matt Damon's point of view, that's no big deal. When you see it from Adam Driver's point of view, the kiss is something that he inflames him and that he thinks that she's responding to. When you see it from her point of view, you see that she sees that he has this reaction and she's like, what is going on here? What is that all about? I didn't mean it that way, you know? And so Legris thinks that he is madly in love with her. And so he understands that Carouge is going off on a battle. He goes to her house. It happens to be the day that her mother-in-law, Carouge's mother, decides to go into town with all the servants on an errand. And so she's there alone. And he tricks his way in and he rapes her. And that, is, of course, is shown from both points of view as well. We can talk about that later. And unlike most women, he tells her, in fact, don't tell anybody or I'll kill you. And she does. She tells her husband when he comes home, and together they decide that they're going to pursue justice for this wrong. And so they tell everyone that they know, all their family and friends, they say, spread the word. And they go to the Lord, who has, played by Matt Damon, who has the jurisdiction. And the Lord dismisses it altogether and says, oh, you know, she was probably dreaming it, right? Blame the woman, it's her fault. And so they're not satisfied with that. So they decide to appeal to the King of France. And that means they have to go before a court in the city of Paris. So they do. They go and they give their testimony. Her testimony is still there. It's in an original document in the library someplace. You can find it. And it comes down to he said, she said, and the court can't decide. So they do trial by combat. So in the medieval line, this was the trial by combat shows who God favors, and whoever that is, whoever wins, they have the truth on their side. And people say, well, was she telling the truth? Well, the consequences for her husband loses the duel, that she is burned alive at the stake. So why would she? First of all, you know, in our time, how hard it is for a woman to bring an accusation like this, and the kind of condemnation that is heaped upon her. Think about how much worse it was then. And then if you're proven wrong in court, you have to be burned at the stake. Come on, she wasn't lying.
The one thing, after reading your review, because I haven't seen the film, but after reading your review, one question I had is any of that messaging heavy-handed at times? Like, do you kind of feel the messaging, or is it more, so is that more your interpretation, or is the movie kind of shoving your face in it, so to speak?
No, I don't think it is. I think there are a couple of times when there are messaging, and that is with a couple of judges at the trial. One judge says, they make a point of the medieval belief, and this is an actual medieval belief, is that you can't get pregnant, a woman can't get pregnant unless she is experiencing pleasure in the sex act, right? So they question her about that. Did you feel pleasure when he raped you? And you should see her face when they say that. The other moment is when a judge says, Um, you can't get pregnant when you're raped. That's science. And of course, that gets a bit of a laugh because there are still people putting that idea out there, which is absolute nonsense. So those would be the two times I think that there's a little messaging going on. But the rest of it is, it's all in the narrative. It's all in the actions between the three characters. It's all in the emotions that they have. They're in their reactions to each other. So yeah, it's not really a message film, although the message is there.
Ridley Scott is a great director. He's directed some wonderful things. We mentioned Blade Runner in our last review, talking about Denis Villeneuve in 2049. And, of course, he was the guy behind that. He's the guy behind Alien. And then probably the closest thing that he's done to this would be like Duelists or Gladiator. Gladiator had a lot of crazy, phonetic, quick cutting, eye blink stabbing, and things like that. Is this a similar style, or is the violence kind of more, is it calmed down a bit?
I would say it's like that during the actual duel. I mean, it's a long, bloody, violent fight scene. And there is that quick cutting, there's overhead shots, there's that kind of thing. But that's really just during the fighting. I think during the rest of the time, he takes more of his time with letting the characters' faces develop the emotions, if I can say it that way.
When you think Ridley Scott, you don't think actor, director, you think visionary guy. But, he's also directed smaller films where the acting really does shine. And it's kind of like if you've ever seen Matchstick Men, which is a quirky, comedic con man movie with Nicolas Cage and Sam Rockwell. Fantastic little movie. And you look at it and you go, wait, Ridley Scott directed this? There's no, there's no visual effects to speak of. It's not a big scope movie. And also like Thelma and Louise. Thelma and Louise is not a grand spectacle kind of movie. And there's really good acting in it. And, another movie with some great female characters. And, I've heard Comer is fantastic in this. There's probably going to be nominations abound. I've heard Affleck is terrific in this as well.
Well, let's talk about these folks a little bit. Ben Affleck, as the Lord in question, I call him a jolly sybarite. He's all down for partying, man. That's his thing. and it's so great. It's a wonderful character. Matt Damon, usually plays Mr. Nice Guy in his film. He's the guy who's all nice and relatable and everything. In this one, he's quite different. He's a hardened warrior. He's very stoic. He doesn't let his emotions out very much. Very different from the way we're used to seeing him. Adam Driver is, well, what can you say? He's great in everything I've seen him in, playing this guy who's kind of sucking up to the Lord a little bit and thinking that his former friend is turning into this madman from jealousy. And Jodie Comer, oh my gosh, she has to play that rape scene twice and do it differently each time. And the way she does that is really something. Yeah, used to sing. We saw her earlier this year in Free Guy, where it was a comedic role. So this is very different from that, and it's also very different. Her role as Villeneuve on Killing Eve. So she's one to watch for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you have these guys who when you look at the other roles that they played. So you've got Ben Affleck, who is coming off of playing Batman.
Yeah.
You've got Matt Damon, who was Jason Bourne, and you've got Adam Driver, who was Kylo Ren. In those big movies, I don't think they get to do, like, there's a lot of action and stuff like that, and but you don't really get to see their acting chops. If you see Adam Driver in this or Marriage Story, there's a lot more there than sort of like a big Darth Vader villain or something like that. Mm-hmm. Although I think he's great as Kylo Ren as well.
He brings that skill to that role as well. Yeah.
Would you say it's a strong recommendation for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I am into costume dramas anyway. But this is like I say, it's three really great performances. It's and based on a true story. I mean, how can you go wrong?
I definitely see some accolades coming up early next year for this and nominations and stuff. I, and
Yeah.
my cynical side says that kind of that's why they made this movie. I think all these people want some more gold on their mantle, and they said let's go for it.